Alright guys, it's part 2. Let's start to build our first app in Unity. Let's install the Holotoolkit and we're going to deploy. So the first thing we need to do is download the toolkit. So I'm going to show you this website. It is holotoolkit.azurewebsites.net, and it says that this is connected to the Unity repo. When it's checked in, it will basically generate a package, so that's perfect really, so we don't have to clone the repo and then make our own package. It's all done for us. The last one was done about a week ago, so it's pretty up to date. So let's go ahead and download that and wait for it to download. Right, once you've got that downloaded, we're going to leave that in our downloads folder and go ahead and open up Unity. If you don't have a Unity account, please create one now and then sign in. Alright, so we're going to create a new local project. Call it Hololens tutorial. Oh, call it what you want. Hololens first app. And turn that off. And we'll select 3D. First thing I'm going to do is sort out my layout, like the 2x3 split. And then we're going to import the package that we just downloaded. Let's import all that good stuff. Okay, so now you should see a few folders. The toolkit, examples, tests and unlit tests, and that's perfect. Hopefully you shouldn't have any errors. So let's have a look at the console window. Okay. Let's have a look. Namespace iGeometry not found. Okay, let's have a go at fixing this. Okay, so I typed in Hololens iGeometry and it's in the Gaze Ruler scripts folder. So yeah, if you type in just Gaze Ruler, it is in the scripts folder there. So that just means that it hasn't been referenced. So we're going to go to quick actions and refactoring and say using the Gaze Ruler. You can see here Gaze Manager does not exist, and we need to add the input module. That should be it really. You can save that, come out and wait for it to compile. And there's another error. Okay, begin animated check takes 2 arguments. Let's see, prop, material property. Okay, so it doesn't really need this then, does it? Just 1 argument. Let's go back. If this pops up, force text asset serial, yeah, just force text serialization, just so it's easier for collaborations if you are going to do those on GitHub. It's how Unity saves scenes, so it's saved as a text. Alright, so we've got that fixed. Let's get to creating the first scene. Alright, so this new scene, let's first add the camera. There are a few prefabs already made for you, so you only need to type in the names, Hololens, camera. No. Oh yeah, by the way, just ignore the console. I know it comes up with this request error, and I think it's just something to do with the version that I'm using. But anyway, just ignore it for now. Just drag those into your scene. It should. You don't need a main camera. You might as well keep the directional light. Save the scene as, I'll call it app. Just make something quick so we can build it. Type in input manager. Get the input manager prefab across, and the feedback cursor. So cursor, there are a few cursors that come with this. There's cursor with feedback. That's probably my favourite because it tells you when it's ready, and it's just got more information really. The other ones are just cursors that follow your gaze, but this one's got the actual ready hand symbol to tell you that it actually recognises that. So that's all you need really, those three components right there. And let's just add, make sure we're at 0, 0, 0. Let's just add the infamous cube. I don't know, let's place it about 5 units away. Let's tilt it a bit, like so. Should we add a script? Let's add a script just for the sake of it. Quickly showing you how to change color tap. Alright, so remove those start and update methods. We don't want those. We want to start using a new namespace from the Holotoolkit. Unity in the input module, and that will give us access to some interfaces, and we'll be using the input click handler, and it's giving us a message basically saying it's not implementing the functions it's using. So all we need to do is go to quick actions and implement those, that one method really. If you don't understand, we're basically just using this method and putting it into here because we have access to it. Alright, so I'm going to paste some code in here, and you can just go ahead and copy that. It is using a new color random range 0 to 1. It's giving me an error because I'm using that namespace and it's getting confused between the system and the Unity engine. So save that and let's go and run it. Let it compile first. Right, so I'm gonna play that. Right, so we've got a cursor and these two little hands at the bottom, and it basically casts a ray, and whatever it's colliding with, it will stick to that object. So that's a nice little cursor to start with, and these two little hands are programmed with left shift for the left hand, and right hand is space to move around your right mouse click and drag. Okay, so let's say we're lifting up with the left shift and we can click, and every click it creates a new random color. Alright, so yeah, let's start to build. let's go to File, Build Settings, select Windows Store, and make sure you switch platform so that Unity symbol is down here. Alright. By default it should be any device. I think you've just got to select HoloLens. D3D is fine. Latest installed's fine. All you need to make sure is that you've got this Unity C# project clicked. Alright, so go into your play settings. Here's where you want to, I don't know, call it Hololens first app. Make sure that you don't use weird symbols like ampersands or any weird thing, because Visual Studio might not be able to parse that string, so just be careful, keep it simple. We're going to, in fact, these capabilities here can be set with Holotoolkit configure, and you can do it up here if you wanted, but we don't really need most of these right now. But anyway, we'll just go ahead and build. I think worth noting that you should have, right, this is quite important actually, make sure in the other settings virtual reality supported is checked, and you should have the Windows holographic SDK installed already, so that'll just put that in there. Other stuff that's it's already pretty much set out for you. What else? Quality settings, that's another important thing. Make sure that in your Windows setting fastest is select. That's just something I read about. Probably for the best, considering that you need top frames per second when you are running the HoloLens, and we just need to add open scenes and build. Yeah, I'm just going to go click build, make sure that's checked. Let's create a new folder called app. That can be called anything really, but app seems to be a standard that people use. Alright, so we should get this pop-up window with the app and the generated project. Okay. So before I click on this solution file, I'm just going to close the current one I've got open, just because it can get a bit confusing. Of course, open it with that and wait for it to load. And I think the first thing we're going to do is show you how to get it running on the emulator. Alright, so that should be it. That's loaded, so make sure in the top bar it's set to release, and it isn't an ARM processor, it's a 86, and if you click on this little drop down you can see the different types of build settings you can have. So set it to the HoloLens emulator. You can have the HoloLens plugged in through a USB. You'd click device remotely to the HoloLens. In this case you'd type in the IP, I'll show you that in a sec. For now I'll just select the HoloLens emulator. Okay, so I've had to go into the apps menu. I'm going to place this, right click to tap. Continue debugging. Okay. Okay, so we're in the HoloLens emulator. Okay, so I'm going to click, right click, and that is perfect. You can move with the arrow keys, but it is pretty slow. And that is how to build to the emulator. Success. Before I build to the actual device itself, I'm going to get a useful Windows app. So I just go to the store. If you don't have this already, I do recommend it. Type in HoloLens. And it should be the Microsoft HoloLens app for free. I just wanted to get this so you could see what I was seeing. And make sure that your HoloLens is connected to the internet. I'm going to click on launch. Wait for the device to boot up. It's asking for the IP, so let's go to settings, network, internet, and then you should see that it's online. And now that I can live stream stuff. Okay, cool. So back to building stuff. Let's go back to our Visual Studio app and click that little arrow button again. This time let's go on remote machine, and it'll give you this pop-up. Type in the address again. What's wrong? And make sure that this universal option is there. If it isn't there, unfortunately you haven't installed the Visual Studio correctly. It's to do with those workflows that we talked about before in part 1. So if you haven't done that, please go back there and make sure that that is selected. Let's choose that. Alright, and what we can do from here is rather than click on that green arrow, the fastest way of doing it is start without debugging or Control F5. It's worth noting as well in future, say if you disconnect this device and go to other person's house, come back here, the IP's changed. What you want to do is reconfigure that so it matches with the current IP. So go to debug, first app properties, and in the debug settings you can change the remote mouse, remote machine IP. So that is just in case you need to reconnect it again. But we don't need to do that right now, so let's just go straight into debugging. Oh right, yeah. A PIN is required to establish remote connection. Yeah, okay. So we need to pair it. To do that we have to go into the settings of the HoloLens, and then we can type that PIN in. Alright. So I'm just going to type in 731. Sure, that's right. Okay, so it says in the bottom left, deploy succeeded, so that's the golden ticket. I can now see made with Unity. Hopefully you can see what I'm seeing. I'm going to go on live stream, and there it is. There is the cube, and if I raise my hand, notice how the cursor changes, and I can now click on it and it will change colour. Alright, so that is perfect, absolutely perfect. And that is it as far as deploying to the HoloLens. There's the only other good way of doing it is with the USB. So I'll quickly go through that with you now. I'll just close that off. Alright, so when you're all plugged in to here, into the tower or laptop, we're going to manage your cables. And like I said, start without debugging. It's worth having the output box there, and you just want to click play. If you get this pop up, say continuing debugging, don't ask it again. Okay, and there it is. Now the reason I said you can have your output window on is because if you have any like debug.log functions, they will appear in here. We didn't put any in, so we can't see any, but they're very useful for debugging, unless you want to put in your own little console in the actual app itself. That's the best way of seeing your debug logs. Alright, so that is it. You should now be able to deploy in several different ways to the HoloLens, whether it's the emulator or on the actual device itself. I hope you found it very useful. If there's anything I need to add, I will add it at the end, and I will include some links. So hope you've enjoyed the tutorial. Hope there's more to come. If you want to see anything in particular, just always comment. I'm going to go through some like kind of essential Holotoolkit stuff like occlusion and anchor points, very useful. So always worth subscribing. Alright, so see you later, see you in the next tutorial. Bye.